up, Nitro Gang? Welcome to part 3 of this Traxxas Nitro Rustler restoration. Just want to say again, this one is not mine. I'm repairing and fixing this for a member of the Nitro Gang. So guys, don't blame me for what I'm about to tell you. We are literally gonna go into the X-Files of the Nitro RC world. You're gonna see so many issues here, issues way beyond the motor. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. I already gave this an overview. I thought this was gonna be the last part of the video, but in fact, there you literally could have like a sitcom on the issues on this Traxxas Nitro Rustler. We're gonna get into the issues later. Let me give you a small recap of what I did in the previous part 2 episode. I used this heat gun right here. Now the engine is unseized. It spins freely. Look at that. Oh yeah. Look at that piston go, baby. That feels nice. It looks good too. I thought this was going to be the worst part of this repair. But there's still so many issues, you know, not including putting all of these parts on. This is the clutch, the flywheel, clutch bell, one-way bearing, pull starter. Hopefully this all goes okay. But, you know, just like in the show The X-Files, it never really ends just there. Mulder and Scully never really give us the answer as to what actually is the reality of what they're investigating. And guys, this Traxxas Nitro Rustler is actually basically the same. Now, the electronics in this car could have their own hour episode. I already checked it over. I'm going to give you more of a detailed view later on. But this receiver is bad. I'll show you exactly why. It surprised me too. This steering servo is bad. Throttle servo works, I checked. Look at the fuel cap lid. So a lot of times people will, you know, put a zip tie here to make the fuel cap easier to open. Now this one, this goes way beyond the zip tie. I'm not even really quite sure what this piece of plastic is, but this is not the end of any zip tie I've ever seen. So it looks like somebody molded it right through the lid on the gas cap. So they must have used heat over here or something. Look at that. It looks terrible. Don't be a lazy electric keyboard driver and just open up the cap like this yourself. You know, what can I tell you? Just do it. Hopefully this fuel tank does hold a vacuum. I'm not quite sure. Now, normally how I test it is like this. I'm gonna remove this protective high-level zip tie out of the fuel line. I didn't do any of this. Make sure you know that. And let's see if I blow in it. What's gonna happen to the fuel cap lid? Check this out, guys. Okay, well, you can't really see anything happening there, but it was opening. Now, it could open, that's no big deal. Can it hold a vacuum? Let's see. Alright, yeah, it seems to be holding the vacuum just fine. You know, there's a screw in the other end of this fuel line. So, not the best ideal check here, but the fuel cap seems to be okay. Take a look at the way the upper deck is mounted to the rest of the support here. It is crooked. This screw does not even go all the way in. Hopefully this is still okay in terms of the geometry of the system. You know, hopefully it'll be fine. The chassis looks straight and flat, you know, because clearly the paint helped protect it, right? You know, it's all about that paint. But there is so much wrong here. It's just, it's actually kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever worked on an RC in my life that has had so many issues as this one does. But guys, don't you worry, I'm prepared. Wearing a black shirt, you know, doesn't say anything, just wearing a black shirt. Let's get to putting this motor together. I bet you thought I was gonna come up with something clever. Well, I got nothing clever right now, Nitro Gang. Let me assemble this motor and then get to the rest of this chassis. Guess what, Nitro Gang? I wasn't kidding before. This truly is the X-Files of the Nitro RC world. I was about to start assembling these accessories onto the motor. Then I decided to read the comments and respond to some of them like I always do for the Nitro Gang from the second part of this video. And of course somebody mentioned the fact that this motor was incorrectly assembled. Now I did not remove the piston and the sleeve from the engine. But I went to check the Traxxas Exploded views, and whoever made that comment, I want to say thank you. What you said was the wrist pin on the piston was facing the incorrect direction. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures here. You can clearly see on the exploded parts view that the wrist pin is facing away from the exhaust port. On my engine, the wrist pin in the back that inserts into the piston is facing the exhaust port. Now, I remember years ago reading somewhere about whether this could be interchangeable. You know, can you have the location of the wrist pin securing the connecting rod and the piston facing the exhaust port? And from what I understand is it creates a lot of extra possibilities for there to be damage in the future. The wrist pin on a TRX 3.3 motor should not be facing the exhaust port. So now I have to disassemble all of this again. Good thing I didn't start putting these accessories on as I initially intended to, because it seems every time I try to do something on this Nitro Rustler right here, you know, this is like the X-Files of the Nitro RC world, and there's like a new discovery. So it's all disconnected again. I'm back to basically where I started. Yeah, so this wrist pin, you guys could see it right there to the exhaust port. It should not be directly on the exhaust port. Now, it looks like somebody has rebuilt this motor in the past, but yeah, it looks like it also did run a little bit. I see a little bit of discoloring here on top of the piston. So it ran fine. You know, if you made this mistake, it'll still run. Chances are this motor will fail from a bad connecting rod that will split down the middle. But the piston is directional, and we don't want to have any extra chances of it being wrong. So I think I will be removing this right now and putting it in the right way. You know, everything we do on my channel is the right way as far as I'm aware of. Ideally, you would want to minimize removing the sleeve as much as possible, just because, you know, it's a lot of extra things you gotta do, and really is no point unless you have to. In this case, I have to. So I'm gonna insert zip tie, right, the classic zip tie tool, and it should pull the sleeve up. Of course, I don't have a flywheel here, so it's kind of hard for me to spin this. Gotta heat the block up again. I can't seem to remove the sleeve. It's very tight in there. Just gonna heat it up a little bit, get the metals to expand here a little bit, then it should be much easier. Truly the X-Files of the Nitro RC, you know? Never surprises me, guys. Never surprises me. You want to mess with Nitro, you better get ready for this kind of stuff right here. Let's see if that will do it. Oh, it's hot. I'm managing to get it out slowly. So far, I'm using an antenna tube. You know, you never throw away your old trash. You never know when you're gonna have to use it like this. This is actually more effective than a zip tie. I struggled with this for a little while, but yeah, it's coming out here. There's no way you can mess this up putting it back in, because the sleeve has a little bit of a directional groove right here. Just gotta remove this. Oh man, it's still pretty tight in there. Could use a little more heat, but it'll come out. Not gonna let the sleeve beat me. There we go. Let me check the sleeve itself, if anybody did any kind of mods on it. No, the sleeve looks fine. So now I just got to remove this piston connecting rod and put it back in the correct way. So check this out, guys. Here is the piston. You can clearly see that one side of the piston has a small hole, while the other side, where the wrist pin is attached, is a giant hole. And of course, even this is incorrectly positioned. Although, unless this was incorrectly put in somehow, I don't know how this motor even ran. It's supposed to have an opening on the other side of the ports there on the block. So that's actually fairly interesting. Wonder if it actually ever ran at all, looking at it the way it is now. So yeah, you clearly see this is a little opening. This is a big opening. The little opening, right, should be facing this exhaust port. Not this huge hole right here. It should be this way. I'm gonna put it back in and then start doing what I was doing. This is the way it's supposed to look. You can clearly see through the exhaust port the opening on that piston is much smaller. And now I'm about ready to put the sleeve back in. This is probably the most annoying and difficult part. Parts like this are pretty annoying to put in. You gotta use a lot of lubricants, you know. But it'll go in eventually, guys. The X-Files right here, they're not gonna beat me. I'm gonna beat them. We're actually gonna have a conclusion to this show. Video, rather, right? This is the most annoying part right here. It's probably a good idea to heat the block up again. And then put the sleeve in like that. That's what I'm gonna do. It's hot now. The heat definitely helps, so make sure you have a heat gun if you're doing any kind of stuff like this. This is also one of the most annoying parts, but eventually the piston will just make its way in through the sleeve, you know, after a lot of stressful heartache here. But it's got nowhere else to go. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna get in there one way or another. Okay, here we go. You just gotta use your finger a little bit to position the piston inside and then line the sleeve back up to its notch as it should be right here. And boom, guys, we got ourselves an engine. Wow. The pinch is like insane now. Before, you saw me spin this so freely, and now at the top of the stroke here, you know, it's hard. It's not as easy. So clearly, this was incorrectly assembled, right? So this is much better. Man, I'm lucky that someone put this in the comments, because if I were to run this, you know, considering this is not my RC, I don't really like to destroy anything, especially other people's things. Let's put some more oil in here. And boom. Yeah, tiny little thing. And now we have so much more pinch here at the top. I'm actually applying a lot more pressure here. I can't just freely spin the piston over just like I did previously. You know, now this is good. This is good. I'm happy someone put this in the comments. Thanks so much, NItroGang. You know, that's why I do a lot of these videos. Half the time, I watch what I did in the previous part just to see how parts here go together. And no joke, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things here. Like, for instance, take this, right? See these two cutouts here on top of this back plate? I forgot which way this was supposed to go in, so I watched the previous video, the part 2, where I disassembled this, and I saw myself literally pulling this out, with this being oriented towards the top. So yeah, job well done, guys. Anyways, I'm gonna cut this video now because, yeah, this is gonna take me too long to edit. I don't have that much memory on my computer. I'm not a rich dude. I don't make money going to skate parks and breaking RCs. You know what I'm saying? I rebuild old nitro motors that aren't even mine, and I do it the right way. Needless to say, there's no money in this. I do this for the fun of the hobby. I do it for the NItroGang. And now I'm gonna go have some lunch. See you later. Make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and don't miss the next part on this truck.